Yo, I have a 2013 Chrysler 200 in here. Have a couple of codes, a p2181 and a p0125. I have a pressure tester on this thing. And as you can see, it's bubbling a little bit. I couldn't really find a leak when it was hot because it's such a small leak. Everything would just evaporate. So nothing ever really hit the ground when it was hot. I could smell a little bit of coolant. The reservoir was empty and the coolant was a little low. The only leak that I could find was just a little bit of coolant on under the bottom of the engine, right on the bell housing. And there was a little bit on the mounts. But on the top of the engine, it wasn't really wet. So it's definitely got a leak. Sometimes when you get one of these codes, you might have an engine coolant temperature sender that is no good. So I let the car get dead cold to make sure that the engine coolant temp and the intake air temp is the same temperature, so I know that that sensor is good. The victim was complaining about some weird temperature gauge fluctuations and some weird in-cabin heater issues. So it's obviously due to low coolant. It could be possible that one of these thermostats are bad on this. There's actually two thermostats. There's an engine thermostat that runs about, I think this is a 210 degree thermostat, so it's fully open at 230 degrees, and that's when the coolant goes in the engine. And then you got this other one that's in here that's for the rest of the car, and I think this one's 170 degrees. So your heater hoses are going to run about 170 degrees, maybe hotter, and then your engine, they wanted an optimal temperature between 210 and 220 degrees probably. And with these plastic manifolds too, if I ever see a leak in them, I don't even bother trying to seal up the one that's in there, because the planned obsolescence of this plastic junk usually starts corroding and leaking out, so I just replace the whole thing. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to replace this, and it'll probably fix all the problems in this car. I probably don't need to, but I'm going to take this top cover off. I can just rip that off. There's like 4 little buttons on here. I got a 10 millimeter here. This is actually broke, so I don't really need to take it off. I will anyways. I probably don't need to take this air box off either, but I'm going to because it's easy enough to do. There's a little button here I gotta pop off. Got a hoser here. Intake air temperature sender, unplug that. Unscrew this hose clamp. 8 millimeter regular screwdriver. There's 2 little buttons down here. I can probably just pull this up, loosen those up. This whole thing comes out. Put a little bungee cord action on here to get this out of the way, just because I can. I'm gonna make sure there's no pressure in this hose. It's cold, so push down, turn, take this cap off. I could drain the radiator too. There's a petcock down there in the radiator, but it's low on coolant. I'm not gonna bother. I'm just gonna let it dump all over the ground and make a mess because I care. I got an engine coolant temp sender here. I can just push in and take that out. I think most of these hose clamps I can get off with just a pair of pliers. This should be a pretty simple job. I got a little drain pan on the ground, so hopefully I can not make too much of a mess. There must still be quite a bit of coolant in here. I don't know, we'll see. Got a little hook tool action for this hose. It's kind of stuck. Still got a little coolant left in it. I have 2 more hose clamps for these heater hoses. I have three 10 millimeters. One you can't really see. It's right here. That should be it. Here's thermostat number 1. That's not centered. This thermostat's actually stuck open. So that stat's no good. That pipe goes to the water pump right there. I might as well get my hook tool in here and get this O-ring off of here. I have a new one in the kit for that. I'll put that on. Got a super scraper here, carbide scraper. I'm going to finish this off with a razor blade, and I don't want to scrape it like this. I'm just going to pull on it like so, just to get the crust off without digging into the aluminum. That's really nice. There's no pits or anything. If I felt any corrosion or pits in here, I'd probably use some gray Permatex, but I'm not going to need it for this. Now I have to get this sensor off. There's a little tab here you push up. I should be able to turn this counterclockwise. That tab comes with the sensor. Pull this thing out. Now I can go ahead and get this little O-ring off of here. Got a new O-ring with this kit. Got some silicone paste, dielectric grease. Put a little on this O-ring. And then stick it in and give it a turn. Yeah, it says 95 degrees. That's a really hot thermostat. Doesn't really stay in very good. Looks like it might just fall right out on me. I'm going to put a little high tack on it. This is some nice slimy stuff. Hopefully it'll keep it from falling out on me while I'm trying to put this in there. You want to coat both surfaces when you use this stuff. Make sure it's clean, and then you want to let it get a little tacky. I usually like to let it sit for about 5 or 10 minutes and then I'll put it back on there. I'll put a little silicone paste on here too, on this O-ring. It'll help it slide on. Now when I put this housing in, I want to stick it in this hole first. Ah, that's backwards. It don't go that way. The price is wrong, Bob. It don't fit in the hole. That's kind of odd. I guess it goes that way. It seems backwards in my mind, but then again, my mind's backwards a lot. Okay, we'll try this again. For whatever reason, this hole is a little off and wrong. I don't know what's going on with this Chinese mumbo jumbo, but this thing don't want to line up. Oh, thank you so much, AutoZone. Your plastic is not cool. What a not cool piece of slightly distorted aftermarket plastic junk. Okay, I'm going to snug these down just a little bit. I will torque these down to about 13 foot-pounds or 155 inch-pounds, right about there. If you actually have to do these little guys, you'll probably want to do them to about 95 inch-pounds. Well, there, I can just slap all this back together now. when you put these clamps on too, you probably want to make sure that they're in the same location you took them off on the hose. I got one of these apparatuses, but it doesn't seem to be working for me. It's a little loose. I got an extra gasket here. Yeah, that'll work fine. Got a little funnel action here. Put the dumb cap on. Cosmetic showy thing. I have some global coolant I'm going to put in here, and I got to get it up to operating temperature. This reservoir's empty. I need to fill it up. There's an add line and a hot line. But I got to run this car, and I got to get it super hot. I probably got to get it up to 220 degrees just for this coolant to get into the engine. I'm just going to run it for a long time until no more coolant goes in the system, and I want to make sure I got heat inside the cabin of the car. If there's no heat in the car, then I know it's not full enough too. And I might have to drive this a little bit just to make sure it all cycles and it's all topped off. And I'll let it cool down and check it again after I do all of that and call it a job. Okay, bye.